Okay, good morning, everybody. So today we're going to talk about the transaction checklist. When you're in a transaction to buy a house, sell a house, when you're in a lease, when you're representing a tenant or a landlord, there's certain forms that are required to close a transaction. And if you have a listing, there's a checklist for that listing. And it's usually just the listing agreement, most likely. And then once you go into escrow, then it turns into a transaction. So you're going from a listing to a transaction. And then you have a checklist for that. And that's a whole other checklist of a bunch of different forms, which I'm going to show you. And if you're representing a buyer, you're not going to have a listing contract. You're just going to have the transaction side of it. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because when you upload your forms on the checklist within SkySlope, which is the transaction management system that we use, you create a listing or you create a transaction, depending on if you're representing the seller or the buyer. And I'll show you guys SkySlope like at the end of this, but when you have a listing, you're going to go into SkySlope, create a listing, and it just asks you, what's the property address? What's the asking price? What's the commission? What's the beginning and ending date of the contract? And then upload a copy for us to have of the listing contract. And then once you accept an offer, you're going to convert that into a transaction, and it's going to ask you, who's the buyer? Who's the buyer's agent? What's the sale price? When does it close? You know, certain things, and then it's going to give you a checklist of all the forms you need to submit to us. So we need a copy of all those forms. And once you complete those forms, we have a copy of everything, and they're all fully executed. All signatures are there. All forms are there. Then we can close it, and you get paid. So if there's some forms you don't have, you might not get paid until you produce those forms. So we recommend that you upload them as you go. So if you get the listing contract signed, upload it. If you're in escrow, you definitely, that means you have the purchase contract signed. That's on the checklist. The proof of funds is on the checklist. The pre-approval letters on the checklist. You have those things right away because you're in escrow, upload them. Get it out of the way. So that way you're marking things off the checklist. And that's the easiest way to make sure you have everything, right? Because as you go, you have like a week left, before escrow closes, and you go into the checklist and say, what am I missing? Let me make sure I get everything, right? As opposed to, I'm just going to upload everything after it closes at the end. And then you find out you're missing one or two things on the checklist, or you're missing signatures because you upload it. And I go through every day and I check whatever's been uploaded. Oh, it's missing a seller signature here, there. You're missing, this is the incorrect form. You don't want to find out at the end once it closes, because if you try to send it out to the other agent on the other side of the transaction, they can be like, hey, we're done. I don't have to do anything. We're closed. And you don't want that. So my suggestion is upload them as you get them. So the first checklist we're going to talk about is the listing checklist. So again, SkySlope is a transaction management system, and it's simply for us to have a copy of all the forms that are required for the transaction, right? But it's also for you to be able to access it if for some reason you lost your file or something, right? So it's different from creating a listing in the MLS. I don't want to confuse you guys. When you create a listing in the MLS, you're inputting all the information about the house and description of the house, beds, baths, all that for other realtors to see so they can bring their buyers. When you create a listing in SkySlope, it's just to manage the transaction with all the forms and checklists and stuff. Does that make sense? Okay. So for the listing checklist, it's pretty much just a listing agreement. And then the seller instruction to exclude from MLS, you don't have to use this anymore because now there's a section within the listing agreement that says do not market until this particular date. So in essence, you wouldn't have to use the seller's exclusion form. But if for some reason the seller changes their mind and then they want to hold back, you can either do an addendum that says beginning date to be a further date, like Sonia's doing on hers, or don't begin marketing until this particular date. So that's the listing checklist. Now, when you're representing a buyer, you're going to log into SkySlope and create a transaction. You're representing a buyer. And then it's going to ask you, who's your buyer? what's the purchase price, everything that I told you guys before. When's the beginning, when was the offer accepted? When does it close? What's the commission? Certain questions, right? Who's the escrow? Who's the title? And then it gives you a whole checklist, which is this. And let's go through it. So the first thing on the checklist, and I printed out this checklist for you guys. I want you guys to write down which side is going to provide the form. And the whole purpose of this class is because you have this whole checklist. It's 2 sides to the page, right? And it's overwhelming. Like, where do I get this stuff from? There's some things that you're going to produce as the buyer's agent, and some things that the listing agent is going to produce. And there's some things you're going to get from escrow. So I want you guys to write in or check a box next to the line item as to who's going to provide it or where you're going to get the form from. So the purchase agreement is going to be provided by the buyer side. So you want to check mark buyer side on that. And that makes sense, right? Because the listing agent, they're not producing it unless they have the buyer as well. So the buy side is going to produce that. And let me show you what that looks like. So this is the purchase agreement packet, which includes the agency disclosure, the purchase agreement, which is like a bunch of pages long, and the buyer's investigation advisory, possible representation more than one buyer and seller, fair housing discrimination advisory, buyer homeowners insurance advisory, wire fraud and electronic funds transfer advisory. So it's got all of these forms within the packet. Within the packet for the purchase agreement. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Contingency removal form. Usually it's going to be the buyer that's going to remove contingencies. So I would say buyer. There's going to be occasions where the seller might need to remove a contingency, and that could be because the seller accepted the buyer's offer contingent upon the seller finding a replacement property. So on occasion, the seller might have to do a contingency removal form, but traditionally, for the most part, it's going to be the buyers filling out a contingency removal form. And there might be one, there could be two, there could be three, there could be a few of them, because maybe they said on the purchase agreement, we're going to remove our inspection contingency within 5 days, and our loan contingency within 14 days, and then our appraisal contingency. I said maybe appraisal first and then loan after, so 14 days and then 17 days. So then you would remove the first one, the inspection contingency in 5 days, move the appraisal on the 14th day, and then move the loan on the 17th day. Or you could leave it as default in the contract and just remove everything on the 17th day. So that's when you would use this form, contingency removal form. And if you're going to send it in, if you're representing the buyer, you would say the inspection would be reveal Dodge preliminary. There's the loan one. If you're going to remove loan, you would just check that, have the buyer sign it. If you're going to remove the appraisal one, then you send this one with 2B checkmarked appraisal, and then have the buyer sign it. You send it in, and so forth. And then when you're ready to remove all contingencies, you're going to send a new one with number 4 checked. Buyer hereby removes all contingencies. Have the buyer sign it and send it. Any questions on that? Pretty easy, right? And so typically the buyer is going to provide that. So the next one on the list is the escrow instructions and earnest money deposit receipt and amendments. So with escrow instructions, there's going to be amendments to the escrow instructions. And this is what that looks like. This is an example of what escrow instructions looks like. It's like a few pages of information. And the earnest money deposit receipt, when the buyer sends in their deposit or wires in their deposit, this is what it's going to look like. So we need you to upload this and the escrow instructions on this line item right here. Not highlighting. Okay, anyway. Yeah, it's not doing it right. But anyway, so it's going to be the Come on. All right. Any questions on that?
That's escrow, right?
Escrow instructions and earnest money deposit receipt. And that's going to be provided by escrow, yes. So if you don't have it at some point, you reach out to escrow and say, hey, can you email me a copy of the escrow instructions and the earnest money deposit receipt? The next one on the list is proof of funds and pre-approval letter. So proof of funds and pre-approval letter, I don't know if I have a copy of an example of that. I don't. So proof of funds is going to be bank statements that show that they have money for the down payment. The pre-approval letter is going to be a letter from the lender saying that they're approved for this certain amount of money for a loan to buy the house. So we need a copy of each of those uploaded in this line item, and this is going to be provided by the buyer side. Proof of home warranty or waiver. You can either get this from escrow or you as the buyer's agent if it's included into the contract or negotiated into the contract. Then you can order it on behalf of the buyer or just have escrow order it. I would have the buyer talk to the home warranty company, see what services they want to provide, or they want to purchase, because when you submit an offer, you can ask for a credit towards home warranty. And usually it's going to be $850, $1,000 credit towards a home warranty. And then the buyer is going to have like a sheet of different services that they can pick from to equal that $850 or $1,000. So you can get this from escrow or as a buyer's agent, let's say buy side or escrow, you can check both of them. You don't want escrow ordering it for you because they might not order like the best services. And then your buyer's going to complain, hey, that's not what I wanted and so forth. So give your buyer the option, say, hey, buyer, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, you have $1,000 credit towards home warranty. Here's the services. What would you like to order? I'll order it for you. Next one on the list is requests for repairs and seller's response. This is what the request for repairs looks like. So the buyer can either say, repair based on the attached property inspection. We would like you to fix the plumbing in the bathroom or fix the chip tile in the kitchen, on the kitchen counter, whatever it is that you're asking for them to repair. And then, or you can ask for a credit. Buyer requests the seller credit the buyer $1 million, right? Like with the pinky up, 1 million, or $5,000 towards repairs, right? And so you can either do or you can do both. Fix this and give us a credit. And then the seller doesn't have to agree to it. And just because they don't agree to it doesn't mean that the transaction is canceled. You're negotiating it. So when the buyer sends this in, so you're gonna get this from the buy side. So the buyer's gonna provide this. They're gonna send it in, say, hey, we would like the seller to pay for either repairs or to do the repairs. And the seller can say, yes, no, we're not gonna do it, or we'll give you a partial credit. And then after they say that in their response, so we're gonna scroll down, the buyer signs the requests. In the seller's response here, they could say, seller agrees to all the requests, and then they sign it. Or they could say partial, and then check the box and say, this is what we're gonna pay for. Or they could say, agree to this much at close of escrow, or they could say, seller does not agree, and the seller signs it. But let's say the seller agreed to all requests, the seller signs it, and that's it. But if they agree to partial or a credit, and they sign it, then it has to go to the buyers, and then the buyers have to sign it saying, okay, we're cool with that. Buyer accepts the partial conditions. Or buyer does not. I've never seen where it says that buyers do not accept it. Buyers should be lucky that they're getting something back sometimes. So that's the request for repairs. And there's also a response to request for repairs, a seller's response to request for repairs. I don't have that in here, but it's form RRRR. This is form RR. and the other form is R. Yeah. So, yeah, so it's seller's response to buyer's request for repair or something like that. Okay, so let's go to the next one, the checklist. Miscellaneous, there's a miscellaneous field here, so there's gonna be some forms that maybe the other side of the transaction, the other agent, maybe their office requires certain forms that are not on the checklist, so you can just upload them here. And you can upload multiple forms to each line item. It doesn't have to be just one. Notice to perform, notice the buyer to perform, notice the seller to perform. So notice the buyer to perform. This is going to be provided by the seller or the listing side. And this is typically used to get the buyer to remove their contingencies. So let's say you've gotten to day 17 when the buyers are supposed to remove contingencies and they haven't. So you on the list side, you're going to say, check the box that says remove all contingencies. The seller is going to sign it. This gives the buyer 2 days to remove their contingencies. And if they don't, the seller can cancel on the third day, unilaterally. This is important because during the transaction, if the buyer has not removed contingencies, the buyer can cancel any single day that they want to. And their reasons can be vague, but they're going to specify Section 8 and Section 12, which covers a whole lot of things. And they can cancel anytime. They hold the power, right? The seller can't cancel unilaterally like the buyer can. But if the seller gives a notice to perform to the buyer to remove all contingencies or whatever, anything on this list, and the buyer doesn't do it within 2 days, the seller can cancel on the third day. That's a way out for the seller. So the seller wants to get out, this is a way out. So it's important that, like, when I'm in a transaction and I'm representing the seller, I always send this out on the 15th day. You can't deliver this more than 2 days prior to the event happening. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that means I send it on the 15th if the 17th day is when they're supposed to remove contingencies. And that's to protect my seller. That's if they want it out. A lot of people don't do that because they think that the buyer's agent's going to be like, what are you doing, man? Does the seller want to cancel? Or are they trying to cancel? What's going on? They freak out. So I send them an email saying, hey, just to let you know, this is company policy. We send this out to protect our seller. Notice to perform to remove contingencies. No big deal. And that kind of softens the blow. Because usually they're going to be like, what's going on? Like, they get pissed. So, yeah. So that's going to be provided by the listing side. All right, let's go to the next one. There's also notice the seller to perform. And I haven't seen that used very often. But, I mean, the buyer can cancel anyway for mostly any reason. Cancellation of contract. It can be provided by either side. And that's if one party wants to cancel. So you would just write in who the buyer and seller are and who's canceling it. And then for what reason, as permitted by right here, right? And then whoever's canceling is going to sign here. And then on the next page, it talks about release of the deposit from escrow. So one of those boxes is going to be checked, and it's mostly going to be C1. Seller authorizes release of buyer's deposit to buyer less any fees incurred through escrow if there's any fees. Could be notary fees, courier fees, whatever it is. And some escrows might charge you a couple $100 because of all the work they did. And some might just give you all your deposit back. And then the other parties, they're both going to sign down here. So that could be from either party. Any questions so far?
But the seller can't cancel, right, until the end of the period?
No, I just told you guys when the seller can cancel, do you remember?
Right, yeah. So
they can cancel if they give a notice to perform, right, and the buyer doesn't perform.
That's the only time, right?
On the third, yeah, on the third day. The other time is the notice to demand to close escrow, and that's towards the end of it. There's a demand to close escrow, and if you give it to them, I think 2 days prior to closing, 2 or 3 days prior to closing, if they don't close, do what they need to close, then the seller can cancel that. So that's another way out
Okay.
for the seller. Which, it doesn't make sense to me. That once, I've seen people send it out, but I haven't seen them cancel for it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like nudges, and the yeah. And that one, either party can send out to. So the next thing on the list is affiliated business arrangement disclosure statement. Oh shit, I just closed it. Sorry. And that one is, actually, it's not even on the list there, it's over here. Here it is. So this just lets the other side know, and all parties know that we're affiliated with the escrow company. So in case escrow's here, so they won't say, hey, you guys are using that company, you didn't tell us that you guys have ownership. Well, here we go. It's letting them know. And we also have partial ownership or some interest in Southern California Funding and CV Platinum Commercial and Orange Coast Title Company, that there's some kind of interest in there. And it's letting everybody know, hey, we're not trying to hide anything. So, and this is provided by, you should provide it whether you're representing the buyer or the seller. So you should always provide this. Okay, the next one is agent visual inspection disclosure. It's also known as the AVID. And this one, each agent needs to provide one of these. And this is exactly what the form says. It's a visual inspection of the property. So nobody expects you to be a professional home inspector. You're not gonna go and check the plumbing. You're not gonna check the electricity. You're not gonna flip the lights off and on and check all the faucets. It's a visual inspection. And it's designed pretty much to look for any deficiencies that are visual that you see in the house. And don't get too specific about it, because if you ever have to go to court and you said that it was one thing, they're gonna say, well, how did you know? Are you an expert in that? Did you test it? How, like a water spot, water stain, or a coffee stain, or like mold, things like that. You can't say something is mold. Just say like there's a black stain or discoloration of the ceiling or the bathroom wall, whatever. Don't say there's mold, because then you draw more attention. They're gonna be like, are you a mold expert? Did you test it for mold? Why would you say that it's mold, right? So don't say that. You wanna say things like broken window in master bedroom, torn carpet in hallway, maybe scraped or scraped floor, wood floor, like, I don't know, whatever you want, like drag marks or something, not drag marks. Now you don't know if it was something was drug or not. So just be vague with it, but you want to let people know what you see, right? It could be torn screens throughout the house, this bedroom, that bedroom, whatever it is. So just visual stuff. And it's going to ask you, agent will not climb on the roof or into the attic. See, you don't have to do that. Agent will not look under, behind furniture, pictures, all this stuff. So it tells you here that it's just a visual. Don't go extra and do all these things. So at the entry, what do you see at the entry? At the entry, I see the door frame is falling apart. Okay, you put that on there. Living room, there's torn carpet in the living room. Dining room, the chandelier or light over, in the dining room is broken. Like, whatever. Kitchen, in the kitchen, missing tiles on the countertops. Those are things that you would normally see. Other room, that could be if they have like a den or a library or something, right? Hall or stairs, that's exactly what that is. Maybe torn carpet in the stairs. Bedroom here, you would say bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3, bedroom 4, if there's 4. And what I like to do is for bedroom 1, sometimes maybe I'll just type in master bedroom in the description of it. and then whatever I find. Bedroom 2, I would say bedroom nearest to the stairway, to the stairs, just to identify them, because otherwise, which one's 1, 2, 3, and 4? And then bedroom 3 is the one furthest to the back, right? Whatever it is. And then this is what I noticed. But regardless, if you don't see anything that's wrong or deficient, just say no deficiencies noted. So make sure you write something in there. There's some agents that use this like an inventory type thing because they don't know what to do with it. So they say, oh, there's a fireplace in the living room. Does it not, is it like broken? What's wrong with it? Like, what's the deficiency? Or there's a wall-to-wall carpet and I don't know, mirrors on the ceiling. I don't know, but it's like, that's not what it's for.
Yeah.
It's for deficiencies. So make sure that if there's 3 bedrooms, you say, this is bedroom 1, this is bedroom 2, bedroom 3, and then next to it, to the right, you're gonna say, no deficiencies noted. That's it. And then maybe on the rooms that aren't applicable, just say NA, not applicable. Bathroom 1, you could say downstairs bathroom, and then what you know, or no deficiencies noted. Bathroom 2, master bathroom, no deficiencies noted, and so forth. You want to describe where they're located, just to be clear. Other, I don't know what you would add, but down here, garage, even in the garage, right? There could be, I don't know, the flooring could be broken or chipped or whatever. The exterior building and yard, maybe in the back of the building, or maybe in the backyard, there's like bricks that are broken and missing, you know, on the patio or something. And then you as the agent, you're gonna say that you inspected it, what the weather condition was like, it was sunny outside or it was raining or whatever it is. And then what time, and was anybody else present? And then you sign it. You have your buyer sign it, or your seller sign it, whoever you're representing. And then once they sign it, you send it to the other party, and then they sign it, and then their client signs it, and they send it back to you. So there should be one provided by you, there should be one provided by the other agent as well. So we should have 2. So on there, you're gonna say it's gonna be provided by the list side and the buy side. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So do you do the inspection when you get the listing or after you have an offer?
I would do it as soon as possible. I like to do it when I have the listing, so I like to have all the seller's disclosures and that ready. So if I receive an offer that gets accepted right away, I can just send them and everything's done. I don't have to like wait till send it to the seller, and then the seller's like, oh, I'm at work, I can't do it right now. Oh, I'm really busy, I can't. And then like, you're 5 days into it, 7 days into it, and then they finally get around to it, and then you send it off to the buyer side. I'd rather have everything just filled out, like when I list it. So that's one less thing to worry about. And trust me, it makes everything so much smoother because it's one less thing you have to worry about and one less thing you have to chase down. And then once you send that, you're gonna have a lot of time on your hands during the transaction. People think there's something to do every single day. There isn't. If you have everything done properly and like take care of the things you need to take care of, there's a lot of the time that you're not gonna have anything to do. So let's see. Next one is the HOA docs. This is also known as the HOA docs, the condo HOA, other common interests. I don't know if I have a copy of that, but you're gonna get this from escrow. I don't have a copy of that. And if there's an HOA, these are gonna be ordered, paid for by the seller, and then you're gonna get this from escrow. So what we want is, there's a page from escrow it's a signature page acknowledging that the buyer received the HOA docs, a copy of everything. So that's pretty much all we need, this signature page of acknowledgement they received it. Some agents will upload a copy of all the HOA docs, you can do that, but all we need is that signature page. And then again, it's provided by escrow. The next one is the earthquake hazard report signature page. And this is for properties that are built before 1960. So we only, and see, I forgot to mention, any line item that you see where there's a little asterisk to the side, to the right, That's if applicable. Everything else is required, but the ones with the asterisks, those are not required unless it's applicable, right? And you'll know if it's applicable because you'll see when the property was built and if you need it. And like HOA docs, the one above it, not every home has an HOA. So that's why it's if applicable for those that have HOAs. And the earthquake form, let's see if I have it in here, looks like this. And this is less common that we see this. And that's going to be provided by the seller, the listing side. Some of these forms that are just signature pages only, if you're representing the buyer and you notice the seller didn't send them to you, you could just pull them up on zip forms, have your buyer sign them, send them to the other agent, have their seller sign it. Because there's some agents that, some companies that they don't require all this stuff, and some agents also that they don't know what to do, what forms to send out. And some brokerages, they don't keep track of it. They just don't care. But we do. We want to do everything the right way. So make sure you have everything. The next one is the fire hardening defensible space advisory. And this should be provided by the seller. The next one is the homeowner's guide to earthquake safety and environmental hazards signature page. So this one is required for all transactions. And there's a booklet that you have to send out that's within zip forms. You can email it out to the client. And then this is just acknowledging that they received it. So all transactions should have this form, and the seller should provide this. But again, if the seller doesn't, make sure you send it out. But the seller should provide it. And most of these forms require, I think all of them require buyer and seller signature, and some require the agent signatures as well. There's a couple of them in here that only require the buyer signature. So let's go to the next one, lead-based paint. And this is, if applicable, homes that are built prior to 1978. And this form looks like this. And it's pretty much a signature page. A lot of these are just going to be signature, like advisory type forms for them to read. Yep, so they sign. This is provided by the seller, the listing site. Next one, market conditions advisory, listing side. And that looks like this. I think it's 2 pages long. Again, advisory, just a signature. Next one, mold disclosure. This is a company form. It's not going to be in zip forms. So when you're in a transaction, let me know. I can email it to you, a PDF of it. And that one looks like, maybe it's not in here. Let me see. Yeah, this is it here. And this is pretty much saying that we recommend that, you do a mold inspection. And if any mold is found at any time in the future, that we're not responsible as a brokerage. I'm not responsible as the agent. And so if you're going to sue somebody, you're not going to sue us, right? So we recommend that you do all these inspections on your own. If you don't want to do it, that's up to you. If there's any mold or water intrusion. And this should be, if you're representing the buyer, we want you guys to give this, have your client sign it. If you're on the listing side, send it out to have the buyer sign it. So this one, I don't know how you guys want to enter it. We require this for each transaction, whether you're on the listing side or the buyer side. We want you to send it out. The next one on the list is the Orange County disclosures. Here on the list, it says Orange County, LA, Riverside, San Bernardino County disclosures. We know there are Orange County disclosures. LA, most of LA is not going to have any. Riverside, San Bernardino, there might be certain cities that have them. For the most part, we haven't seen that many, but we definitely require that you upload Orange County disclosures if the property is in Orange County. If it's in Riverside and they don't have them, you just say not applicable, or we'll know, right, that it's in Riverside County. And that one looks like this. And it's letting the buyer know. So this is going to be provided by the listing side, by the way. And it's letting the buyer know about just everything in the area, like from transportation corridors, highway, freeway, toll road construction, bus lines, trains, power plants, landfills in Orange County. airports, things like that, just so they can't say, I didn't know there was a landfill in Orange County. I don't want to live in a county where there's, it's like, come on. Anyway, so, and then the power plant, San Onofre, electrical power generating stations, things like that, prisons, jails, all that stuff. So this is gonna be provided by the list side. Again, this is one of those forms too, that if they don't send it to you, if you represent the buyer, just pull it up and have your buyer sign it, send it to them, so the seller can sign it. You just want to fulfill the checklist.
No question.
Yes,
If the seller's in LA, how do you see if there's one for LA County?
you can call the Los Angeles County Realtors, Board of Realtors. So the real estate transfer disclosure statement, also known as the TDS. This is a questionnaire. This is provided by the listing side, by the way. So it's a questionnaire that the sellers have to answer about the property. What's included in the property as far as like these things here, range, oven, microwave, refrigerator, things like that. Also, some questions here like, this is if the seller's aware. If they don't know, that means they're not aware, right? So they would be no. So if the seller calls you and says, I don't know how to answer this because I don't know, then just say no. He says, are you aware of? No, I'm not aware of, but it could have been. Well, if you're not aware, say no, right? You're not lying. Just questions about the property. Features on the property, shared and common walls adjoining landowners, such as walls. If there's a block wall that separates you and the neighbor or fences, that's a shared wall, right? Because both people use. So you're going to say yes, there's a shared wall or fence, or maybe a driveway. So it's questions that the seller's going to answer about the property. Seller signs it, and then agent sign it, buyer signs it, sends it back. So again, that's provided by the listing side. Representative capacity signature disclosure. This one we don't use as much anymore because now that's included into the contract, to the purchase contract, where it says that, let me see, let's see if I have it in here. If you forget to use it, you can always pull it up on zip forms, but it's included in the contract now, so you can use that section. But it's pretty much, if the property is owned or is being purchased by a trust, LLC, corporation, an entity, you're going to write the entity's name. If it's a trust, you're going to write the name of the trust. And then down here, you're going to write who the representative signer for that trust is and their title. So they're going to write their name here, and their title is trustee, and then they sign it right here, it says by. Okay. If it's an entity, so on 1B up here, you're going to check mark whether it's a corporation, or you're going to check mark entity, by the way, first. And then whether it's a corporation, an LLC, a partnership, or other, whatever it is. And at the bottom, you're going to have the type of person's name, and then they're going to be the manager or operating manager or whatever their title is to that, and have them sign. And this is putting the other party on notice that the signer can sign on behalf of that entity. And when it goes to escrow, they're going to ask for proof of all those documents. So you don't have to worry about that. Same thing if it's a buyer purchasing from an LLC or a trust, they're going to do the same thing. Write the name of the trust, write who the signing representative is, their title, trustee, and so forth. So this can be provided by, apparently there's one for seller's representative, and there's a RCSD for buyer's representatives. So there's one for each. But you can avoid having to use this if you just fill in the section within the purchase contract that says it's an entity and what's the entity's name and so forth. It's just a small section of the contract. But if you forget to do it and you have to later on add this to it, you can. And again, there's one for seller's representative, one for buyers. And you're mostly going to see the listing side, the sellers, because they're selling out of a trust or an LLC. The next one is the seller property questionnaire, SPQ. This one is like the TDS, it's a questionnaire. And let's see, within the last 3 years, has there been a death on the property, right? It's more information about the property. Let's see, the release of illegal controlled substances beneath the property. I don't know, most of these are gonna be no. But it's another questionnaire about information about the property. The seller has to answer, sign, so you're gonna get this from the listing side. The next one is the seller's affidavit of non-foreign status or qualified substitution. This is going to be provided by the listing side. This is for tax purposes. And you should have one for each seller. If there's 2 or 3 sellers that are signing, you should have a separate one for each seller. Solar advisory questionnaire. And again, that's if applicable, right? If it has solar panels, then you're going to use this form. And it should be provided by the seller. It's a questionnaire. The next one is statewide buyer and seller advisory. This is like a 14, 16 page form. It's a lot of reading. And then you just sign at the end. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 pages. It's a lot of reading. But that should be provided by the seller, the listing side. If this is again one of those forms that if they don't send it to you, you represent the buyer, just pull it up, have your buyer sign it, send it to the listing side, have them their seller sign it and upload it to the checklist. Trust advisory, if applicable. This is required if the property is in a trust. And it's just an advisory form. And should be provided by the seller, by the listing side. Water conserving plumbing fixtures and carbon monoxide detector form. Listing side provides it. It tells them about the laws and the requirements and all that stuff. It doesn't say they have to do it. So by signing it, they're not saying that they're compliant, because some sellers might say, but I don't have low flow toilets. I don't have all these things. Like, it's just telling you what the requirements are, what the laws are and stuff like that. Doesn't mean you have to do it. It just says that that there's certain requirements. So just have them sign it. So this can be provided by the listing side. Okay. Next, another miscellaneous, in case there's some miscellaneous forms you want to upload. Next one is NHD report. And these are just in alphabetical order by what type of form they are. They're not like, we need this one first. They're not in a particular order, right? NHD report, natural hazard disclosure report. This is going to be provided by escrow. Typically, you can get this from escrow. And that one looks like, here's a home warranty example, by the way, that we need. NHD report right there. It's just a few pages of, but this should be provided by escrow. You can ask escrow for it. Physical inspection or buyer inspection waiver. This is going to be the buy side that's going to provide this, because if your buyer does a physical inspection, they're going to get a report. We need a copy of that report. If they don't want a physical inspection, then we need to have them sign a buyer inspection waiver. And that waiver, I hope I have it in there. It's probably at the end of I think I have it at the end. Wait, was that it? No, it's not in here. So it pretty much says that we recommend as agents that you do an inspection, but you're going against our wishes and not getting one done. And they initial next to that saying they don't want a physical inspection, and then they sign the bottom of the page. So if they don't do an inspection, we need you to have them sign that. So this should come from the buy side. There's also a section in there for a termite inspection. So there's a section they can initial next to the physical inspection, And then under that, there's a section for the termite inspection. So if they initial both, that means they're not gonna get a physical inspection, or they're waiving their physical inspection and termite inspection, and then they sign it. And then you would upload that same form when we ask you for the termite inspection and for the physical inspection on this checklist. You use the same form for both. Preliminary title report, you're gonna get this from escrow, which escrow is gonna get from title. But let me show you what that looks like. It's a bunch of pages here. It shows any liens, chain of title, deeds, grant deeds, things like that. And again, you're gonna get that from escrow. Termite inspection report and clearance or waiver. So that buyer inspection waiver, if they don't want a termite inspection, you're gonna have initial that next to termite inspection and sign it. But here's a copy of a termite inspection. This one was clear, no termites. And you're gonna get this from, typically you're gonna get this from the listing side or from escrow. Because escrow should have a copy of it if there's a termite inspection ordered. And traditionally, on the purchase contract, the buyer asks that the seller pay for a termite inspection report. And if that's the case, then you're gonna get this from the seller, copy from the seller, or you're gonna get it from escrow. Again, it has to be submitted to escrow, so you can just get it from escrow. But if you're the seller, representing the seller, then you're gonna have a copy of it so you can upload it yourself. And I don't usually see buyers ordering termite inspection reports for themselves. It's only if the seller agrees to pay for it that they order them. Next, miscellaneous, in case there's miscellaneous reports.
Paulo, how much for the termite inspection roughly cost?
It could be a couple $100.
Okay, thank you.
It could be 100, it could be 200, just depending on maybe the size of the house or location, I'm not sure. But yeah, it could be a couple $100. And then also in that same line item, if you do an inspection and then they're gonna do work on it to clear any termites, we need a copy of the clearance of the completed work. So you're gonna have the termite inspection and then another page that says what work was completed and then it was done, right, and paid for. Closing documents, there's a closing statement that you're gonna get from escrow at the end. And that looks like, here's a copy of an inspection report, by the way, just regular inspection. They take pictures of different areas that they inspect. Anyway, let's go to, here we go. There's gonna be a final settlement statement for the buyer, and there's gonna be one for the seller. Whoever you're representing, you're gonna get whichever one they're gonna be getting, right? If it's the buyer, you're gonna get the buyer's final settlement statement. If you're representing the seller, you're gonna get the seller's final settlement statement. You're gonna get this from escrow. And this is a breakdown of what it costs, what the property is purchased for, and where all the money went. Like commissions, if you're representing the seller, you're gonna get a seller's final settlement statement. It's gonna show this is what the purchase price was, this is how much escrow fees were, this is how much title fees were, this is how much commission you paid out, this is how much everything, right? Taxes we took out, and then at the bottom is how much you're getting. So you're gonna get this from escrow. We have it as closing statement, but it's called final settlement statement. The next thing on here is the verification of property condition or waiver, also known as the final walkthrough. And that's pretty much, it's gonna be provided by the buyer side. And so it's pretty much the buyer walking through the property 5 days prior to closing to make sure that the property is in the condition it was agreed to when it was purchased. And or if there was any repairs that were gonna be done, that they were completed by that time. So buyers are going to provide that. And again, we require that buyers and sellers sign it. So once the buyers sign it, you send it to the listing side, make sure that the sellers sign it as well. Or, I've never seen this, but the buyer says that they waive the final walkthrough. It could be maybe they're out of state or something.
And
They can't do
Carl,
it.
question
Yes,
on that verification condition waiver. You have a VP at the end. What that stand for?
that's the abbreviation for the name of the form. So if you're going in zip forms and you don't want to type in verification of property condition to find the form, or scroll all the way to the bottom till you get to the V's to find it, you can just type in VP and then it'll come up
Okay,
and then you can
thank you.
select it. Yeah, most of them have something like that. So like you're gonna see WCMD right here. You're gonna see TA Trust Advisory. You're gonna see SBSA, that's the statewide buyer and seller advisory. So when you're looking for them on the in zip forms, there's like a whole list of these forms and they're in alphabetic order. And if you don't want to scroll all the way down because there's so many forms to find it, you can just type in those abbreviations to find it. And the last thing on the list here is the buyer representation agreement and broker compensation agreement. And that's going to be provided by the buy side. So if you're representing the buyer, we require that you upload a copy to us. And it's a packet of forms. So again, it's the agency disclosure, the buyer representation broker compensation agreement, the buyer investigation advisory. So it's a packet of forms. Yeah. So the buy side. And if you're on the listing side, the buyer has no obligation, the buy side has no obligation to give you their copy. If they do, cool. If they don't, we're not going to require it. It's only if we're representing the buyer, we want to copy that for sure. Any questions on any of this? Okay, so let me show you what it looks like in SkySlope. You guys are going to have a different view of this than me. This is because I have admin rights, so I have a different look. So when you log into the screen, it's not going to look like this. On the bottom right corner, it's going to say create, and then you're going to say listing or transaction. And then when you create a listing, it's going to look something like, oh, damn it. Oh, here we go, right. Let's say we're looking at this one here. Oh, let me show you what it looks like when you first enter it. So when you first enter the information, it's going to ask you everything that has the little red asterisk is required. It's going to ask you the MLS number, the property address, let's see who the listing agent is. It's automatically going to put your name in there. List price, year built, things like that, commission, beginning listing date, ending date. And then the next one's gonna be the contacts, who's the sellers. So it's gonna have the seller's names and contact information. There's no home warranty yet because it's not an escrow. Then you're gonna go to the checklist. And there's the checklist that we saw earlier, right? And then you can click on attach, find it in your computer, and then you gotta upload it. And then it's gonna show in red. That means it's under review. That means I haven't looked at it. Once it's green, that means I've looked at it, I've approved it. If not, you're going to see a note here saying missing seller signatures right there. And then you're going to know that you're missing the signatures. And then once you're ready to go in escrow, let's say you completed the listing, you uploaded the listing contract, we have a copy of it. 3 weeks down the line, you go into this, you click on accepted contract. When you click on accepted contract, in SkySlope, it goes from being a listing to now being a transaction, so it's in another category. And then it's going to ask you for similar information. Let me show you what that looks like. If you create a transaction, you'll see the same thing as if you're converting something. So let's see. Is this a lease or is this a purchase? Oh, she didn't finish that one. Okay, this is a purchase. Okay, so it's going to ask you same thing, purchase price, commission, all that stuff, purchase date, when it closes, who's the buyer, who's the seller, who's the other agent on the other side, who is the escrow company, and then there's the commission section, and then the checklist. After you complete all that, it's going to show you a checklist. And this is the checklist that we just went over. And you're gonna click on attach, if you know, make sure you have the forms, and you're gonna add it to the checklist. So that's what that looks like. Does that make sense now, how it all ties in together? Any, you guys at home, is everybody okay? Any questions on that?
Overwhelmed.
Once you do it though, it's not that bad.
It's too much.
Yeah, but you know what? But you have me.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all you need.
All right. Thank you so much, Carlos.
That's
You're
all
welcome.
you need is Carlos.
All right, so if you
Carlos,
guys, yes,
I'd like to have a copy of your checklist. It seems this one is longer than the previous one. So can you send it
It's-
electronic?
yeah, it's just 2 pages. It's front and back that I printed.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's the same one that I gave you before. I can send it out though. I'll send it out with the recording. So if nobody has
Thank
any
you.
questions, we'll just end there.
Thank
And,
you.
And next week, it's Thanksgiving, so there's no class.
Oh, no.
And then the following Thursday, there's no class either because we have a Christmas party that night and we got to get ready for it to entertain you guys.
Are you open the day after Thanksgiving?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, by the way, just so everybody knows, I'm not going to be here all next week. So
Great.
if you guys need anything, let me know today or tomorrow.
Oh,
But John is going to be here all week next week, so you guys can bother him. Please, please, please call him with questions. All right, I will see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank
all right,
you.
thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
bird.